Texans voicing opposition to the rapid expansion of AI data centers. It has the governor responding to concerns.
Data centers must bring their own power. They must reuse their own water.
What state leaders are hearing from Texans and how they plan to take action.
Whatever they're doing, we're going to get them in the courtroom and have to face up to their responsibilities.
A major legal pause for cases against Camp Mystic, why the focus is now shifting to how bankruptcy court will handle the claims.
The alternative is do nothing and allow chaos to continue and college sports to be destroyed. I think that alternative is unacceptable.
A bipartisan push to change college sports moves forward on Capitol Hill. We explore what's at stake and the powerful forces pushing back on the bill.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. Data centers are top of mind for Texans, and their views of them are not typically positive. A newly released poll from the Texas Politics Project at the University of Texas found 56% of Texans oppose construction of data centers in their community. The poll found opposition is higher in rural and suburban communities. At a Texas House Natural Resources Committee hearing on Tuesday, lawmakers heard a whole host of perspectives on data centers. Many House members say they understand Texans' negative view toward data centers, but are balancing it with the national security concerns of losing an artificial intelligence race with China.
The response I receive overwhelmingly from my constituents is negative towards data centers. But knowing how patriotic these people are, help me square this conversation in my mind in terms of where they stand today and the national security conversation.
During the meeting, several county-level leaders asked the state government to give local governments more power to block data centers. Governor Greg Abbott has also been hearing the concerns coming from Texas voters. On Monday, he addressed the issue of AI data centers during an interview with News Nation's Allie Bradley.
You've been talking about Texas being a leader in the AI boom, but you also have requested more oversight when it comes to these data centers that are coming in. Now, at what point is it something where protecting Texans is more important than inviting more of the AI industry into Texas?
Well, listen, protecting Texans is always important and has never been unimportant in this matter. And what we are doing is making sure that all of our fellow Texans are going to be protected, even with AI data centers. Here's what I outlined so far, and that is data centers must bring their own power. They must reuse their own water, and they must reduce electricity costs for residential customers as well as small business customers. Those are bottom line expectations.
So that's how it'll protect the fragile grid already. That's the move there.
Well, I mean, listen, protecting, well, let's be clear about something else. You said fragile grid. Our grid is not fragile right now.
Okay.
Our grid is by far the strongest in the country. In the past 5 years, we've increased electric power generation on our grid by 51%. Texas generates more electrical power than any other state. In fact, we generate more electrical power than the second and third states combined. And so there's no grid even comparable to ours, no more secure, reliable grid than what we have in the state of Texas. That said, these data centers cannot onboard into the Texas power grid without plugging into ERCOT. What we're finding as a result is that more of these AI data centers, they're bringing their own power and self-generating their own power without using any power from the Texas power grid.
A lot of Texans have raised concern about the impact of data centers on water supply. It's part of a larger issue over water in Texas, highlighted by dwindling aquifers, population growth, and industrial demand. The legislature has poured billions of dollars to bolster water infrastructure in recent years. Adam Schwager looks closer at the concerns lawmakers are hearing now at the Capitol.
An issue that affects every family and every business is water.
A year and a half ago, Governor Greg Abbott declared water availability an emergency item. The state responded with a $1 billion a year investment for 20 years. However, that money will first be dispersed in 2028. State leaders say water infrastructure money is running out now.
Almost all of our key programs being oversubscribed.
Demand on most of the Texas Water Development Board's loan programs is high, in some cases more than 10 times what they can provide. And now for the first time in the flagship fund's 13-year history, the State Water Implementation Fund, or SWIFT, is over capacity.
We had $4.2 billion worth of eligible apps. We were able to fund about $2 billion of that.
SWIFT helps fund crucial community water projects through low-interest loans. Industry leaders say it's working.
But we have reached a point in the life cycle of SWIFT that it is time that we recapitalize and make an investment.
Help is coming. At least half of the incoming annual investment is set to go towards SWIFT or the new Water Supply Fund. It's still not enough.
If you put the entire $500 million into SWIFT, you still end up in a situation where you're going to fundamentally change the program.
According to experts, time is of the essence to put more money into SWIFT and other water infrastructure programs, because a slower project is a more expensive one.
If we want to know what causes costs to go up, number one, delay.
For State of Texas, I'm Adam Schwager.
Texas homeowners are facing climbing insurance costs. Average premiums rose nearly 80% over the last 6 years. Now lawmakers are questioning whether artificial intelligence is a factor in those higher prices. The question came up Wednesday during a hearing of the Senate Business and Commerce Committee. Dallas area Senator Nathan Johnson asked regulators whether some insurance companies are using AI to set targeted prices for consumers.
It sounds like to some extent, every industry, with the advent of technological advantages we didn't used to have, is able to create a special price just for you to find out what's your breaking point.
I think if you could do something in statute that would allow us to report it or would allow TDI to take action about it, that might be useful.
Earlier this month, the Texas Department of Insurance issued a bulletin outlining guidelines for AI use. The department said it's up to lawmakers to add more protections for consumers. The Supreme Court delivers key decisions affecting immigration policy, how the impact on enforcement and people seeking asylum is coming into focus. A bankruptcy filing puts lawsuits against Camp Mystic on hold. We explore the question of what happens to those cases moving forward. Lawmakers in Washington push for a major rewrite of college sports rules, the money and power on the line, and how the changes could affect athletes and fans. This week, the Supreme Court issued 2 wins for the Trump administration when it comes to immigration. One ruling could lead to tens of thousands of people being forced to leave the United States, while the other puts tight restrictions on people trying to seek asylum. News Nation Washington correspondent Gabrielle Caracciolo looks closer at the decisions and a big citizenship case that's yet to be decided.
It's huge.
The Trump administration is celebrating wins on 2 immigration cases decided by the Supreme Court. The justices decided the government does have the right to remove temporary protected status previously granted to Haitian and Syrian immigrants.
Now, millions of illegal immigrants from Haiti, who were previously beyond the reach of the law, are now within the reach of the law.
They're about to send them in the streets to make them homeless. This is unhumane.
The court also says federal officials can turn asylum seekers away on the Mexican side of the U.S.-Mexico border. It's a policy known as metering that began under the Obama administration and expanded under President Trump.
America's doors are closed fully to asylum seekers.
The rulings are wins for conservatives, but they're still waiting for the court to decide if President Trump's executive order significantly limiting birthright citizenship is constitutional.
If you're born here, you are a citizen. Couldn't be more clear.
One way or another, this nation has to end birthright citizenship.
Beyond birthright citizenship, we're also waiting on a ruling on whether states can ban trans athletes from female sports teams and if states can count mail-in ballots that are postmarked by Election Day but not received until several days later. I'm Gabrielle Caracciolo, News Nation, Washington.
Migrant advocacy groups condemned the Supreme Court's ruling to allow asylum seekers to be turned back at ports of entry before they enter U.S. soil. The process, known as metering, started in the Obama administration as a way to control the surge of people claiming refuge in the United States. The Biden administration ended metering during the pandemic. Immigrant rights groups say they'll push for legislation to block that policy.
We have not only a legal obligation under federal law and international law that we all agree to, but also a moral obligation to protect individuals and families that are fleeing persecution and violence. But we are going to keep fighting. We are going to keep looking for avenues. Obviously, Congress is one of those avenues.
Supporters of the metering policy defend it as a critical tool to prevent surges of migrants at ports of entry into the United States.
We need order and stability now.
A major overhaul of college sports clears a key hurdle. Now there's a new test and some big obstacles that could determine whether the plan moves forward. Legal action against Camp Mystic is now in limbo. How a bankruptcy filing is creating uncertainty for families seeking answers. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are trying to even the playing field for college athletics. They say a patchwork of laws in different states have given some schools an advantage, especially when it comes to how athletes can earn money. We've told you how Senator Ted Cruz is helping to lead the push to change the system. Legislation he's co-sponsoring cleared a key committee vote earlier this month, setting the stage for a showdown in the Senate. Washington correspondent Vinay Simlot looks closer at what comes next and who's pushing back.
Lawmakers describe college athletics as the wild, wild west. It's an industry with billions of dollars and thousands of athletes. The Senate Commerce Committee took a step to try to tame it.
We need order and stability now.
The top Democrat and Republican on the committee, Senators Maria Cantwell and Ted Cruz, proposed legislation to set one federal standard for athletes to get paid, give athletes 5 years of eligibility with one transfer, guarantee women's sports and non-revenue generating sports equal roster spots, and require schools air local college football and basketball games on a local broadcaster that's free to watch.
They're canceling women's sports, they're canceling Olympic sports, track and field, tennis, and that is taking away opportunities.
But Senator Tommy Tuberville, a former college football coach, says the bill has the wrong priorities.
It gets too deep into the businesses of universities, conferences, athletic departments, while doing far too little to give the student athlete the stability and clarity that actually they need.
The two largest conferences in college sports, the SEC and Big Ten, say they don't support the bill. Senator Cruz says he wants to protect athletes and sports at smaller schools.
And if the alternative is do nothing and allow chaos to continue and college sports to be destroyed, I think that alternative is unacceptable.
So the bill passed out of the Senate Commerce Committee 19-9. It was bipartisan, but there are still some hurdles. It would have to pass the Senate with 60 votes, then go over to the House, pass the House, and get to the president's desk for him to sign before it becomes law. Vinay Simlat, News Nation, Washington.
This legislation could have a big impact on college sports in Texas. We want to dig a little deeper into what's at stake. Noah Gross covers college athletics for our Austin affiliate, KXAN. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So we heard from Senator Cruz, and he was talking about how college sports have changed dramatically in the last few years. In simple terms, who is actually paying college athletes today? Schools, outside companies, or both?
Just to be honest, nothing is simple about this right now. It seems to be changing pretty much every year, Josh, and largely, I think we could say both. Schools are able to pay directly now. There's over just about $21 million of revenue sharing that each school can distribute. That's the maximum amount to their athletes. There's also collectives, which are these big groups that schools form, and they can pay athletes as well, other than that amount. And then we'll see pretty much any big-time athlete these days might have their own endorsement type deals. You think about big athletes in the state of Texas. Arch Manning probably comes to mind. He can get paid a decent amount as well. And then he's all over TV and social media with ads himself. So these athletes have a number of different revenue streams right now.
Yeah, the two most powerful conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC, are opposed to this bill. Of course, the SEC is home to both the University of Texas and Texas A&M. So why are those conferences opposed?
It's an interesting discussion, to say the least. So the SEC is so powerful. The SEC and Big Ten did release a joint statement saying that this bill leaves critical issues unresolved. They got into some specifics. They said it doesn't really provide protections to enforce these rules because there's patchwork state laws that these schools and organizations have been dealing with since all this legislation had been introduced about 5 years ago. Those conferences also argue it would likely expand litigation, of which there has been so much the past 5 years, and it may result in fewer student athletes actually receiving direct revenue sharing payments as they're able to right now. It also does not mention that schools join a voluntary collective to pool and jointly negotiate their media rights as opposed to conference by conference. So, Josh, that is a big deal, and they did not directly mention that because now conferences can negotiate their media rights deals individually, right? The SEC and the Big Ten are these two mega conferences, so their media rights deals are huge because they're the two biggest and the most eyeballs are on them. This would hope to even the playing field a little bit, but as those two mega powers, they might not be quite interested in that right now.
So if the SEC and Big Ten are against it, who's backing the bill?
Well, it's interesting. It does have some bipartisan support, but a lot of the smaller conferences as well. And this is not the smallest schools you've thought of, but ones that are still here in the state of Texas. The ACC, which, yes, if you haven't been paying attention to all the conference realignment, does have a Texas school and SMU, and then the Big 12, which has a much bigger footprint in Texas with 4 schools. There's Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU, and Houston as well, which those are big conferences, Josh, but they aren't at quite the same level of the SEC and the Big Ten. Those conferences argue this would even the playing field, and the bill does explicitly mention there would be no Big Ten and SEC Super League, that would be prevented.
All right, a lot at stake here. Noah Gross, thanks for being with us.
Of course.
There is a requirement that the entire camp property has to be able to hear any kind of an emergency notification.
Safety under the spotlight. Texas summer camps make major changes to prevent problems. We explore some of the changes as kids return for the summer. On Wednesday, Camp Mystic filed for bankruptcy. The move allows the Eastland family to continue to own and run the camp while restructuring. It also puts an automatic stay on lawsuits against the camp, brought by family members of the 25 girls and 2 camp counselors who died during last summer's flood. State Capitol correspondent Adam Schwager breaks down what this means for the camp and the ongoing court battles.
This time last year, Camp Mystic was filled with campers. Now on Wednesday morning, they're closed and filing for bankruptcy.
Now that it's in bankruptcy, Camp Mystic will continue to operate in whatever sense that it's operating right now.
Last July, 25 young campers and 2 young camp counselors lost their lives during the Guadalupe River flood at the camp. Many of their families have taken Camp Mystic to court in Travis County, but now
all lawsuits against Camp Mystic, they are temporarily paused by something called the automatic stay.
The automatic stay can be lifted by the bankruptcy court, but that's not guaranteed. At the last Travis County hearing, the camp argued for arbitration, which would take the lawsuit out of the public's eye. Randy Howery, an attorney representing the family of 8-year-old flood victim Lulu Peck, believes the bankruptcy declaration is an extension of that fight.
They were about to get an order from the court, and I think they read just as we did. They're likely not going to get to go to arbitration. This is the next best alternative.
Howery says they may try to get the bankruptcy claim dismissed, arguing the camp is using the filing as a way to avoid pending rulings in Travis County. At the minimum, Howery is confident the Peck family and the rest of the affected families will get their justice.
Whatever they're doing, we're going to get them in the courtroom and have to face up to their responsibilities for the terrible things that happened to our client and these 26 other little girls.
We reached out to Camp Mystic and its lawyers for more information, but they did not get back to us in time for our deadline. For State of Texas, I'm Adam Schwager.
The U.S. bankruptcy court filings reveal the camp has over $10 million in debt, but only $100,000 to $500,000 in assets. Families of the victims are seeking more than $1 million in damages, saying camp operators failed to take the necessary steps to protect the girls as life-threatening floodwaters approached on July 4th. Since the flood, Texas lawmakers made moves to require improvements to camp safety. They passed legislation requiring things like detailed emergency planning, weather alert radios, and redundant internet connections. To reopen, many camps had to make costly safety upgrades. Nabil Ramadna takes us to one camp and the improvements they made to keep campers safe.
At Lost Pines Scout Camp.
What's the most important part of the diagonal lash?
There's plenty to learn.
All the activities are really fun.
And plenty to do.
We go swimming,
There's like an archery range.
Almost everything that you could hope to learn or do in the outdoors, we have the ability to do out here.
Charles Meade is with Scouting America Capital Area Council. And while making camp fun is a top priority, so is safety.
With the new state regulations that came into play as a result of last summer, there were a few things that we needed to do to adhere to the law.
One of those improvements was upgrading communication. They added 12 new speakers around camp for this summer.
That there is a requirement that the entire camp property has to be able to hear any kind of an emergency notification.
And a new app, which allows staff to send warnings to the PA system for things like evacuations, fires, anything to keep campers and counselors informed.
Multiple staff members, no matter where they are, if there is an emergency, they can engage with that system.
Before camp started, they were required to put together an emergency action plan, laying out everything from who their internet provider was to how to deal with a missing person and what to do in case of a wildfire.
Really for us, the bigger concern is making sure that in the event of a fire that was out of control, we could very quickly and safely get all of our campers together and get them to safer ground.
Meade says the improvements are well worth it, though, if the kids can have fun and stay safe. Nabil Ramadna, State of Texas.
The Lost Pines Scout Reservation welcomes about 1,000 campers each summer. The camp spent about $35,000 on improvements to open this summer. Thank you again for joining us for State of Texas. I'm Josh Hinkle. We'll be back next week to bring you an in-depth look at Texas politics.